And you would be surprised. The same pain points we're solving for Jira admins also exist for NetSuite admins, for Zendesk admins.
I will tell you that in using Salto, I think you all have made me a better Jira admin. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Summer of Atlassian. Today I have Sagi from Salto, and we're going to be talking about their apps and just getting to know Salto a little bit better. As you know, Salto has been a huge supporter of the channel. We've seen the reviews, we've seen how to use their apps in many different capacities, and today we're going to do a little behind the scenes and learn a little bit more about Salto. Sagi, thank you for coming on.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. It's really nice to be here.
So you guys are in Israel, right?
We are, yeah, we're based in Tel Aviv, Israel. We also have offices in the US and in London. We have a few locations, one in Tampa, one in San Francisco, in the
So very
mountains.
global.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're trying. We're doing our best.
Before we kick things off, I'm just so happy I got to meet you. I do think I probably saw you previous year, like at team last year, but
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm glad I got to see you this year and actually formally get to meet you.
Yeah, this team, the last one that took place just now was really a fun one. I couldn't attend the last event personally. We had our team there, but this year I was able to attend myself, and it was really exciting to see everyone, flesh and blood, speaking to real people and not through the Zoom.
Right,
So
yeah.
really nice to see everyone in person.
And I think when you came up to me, we were trying to ditch security because they were trying to kick us out of the parking lot.
Yeah. We actually we had a few we had a few incidents with the security
With
there.
securities, it's so interesting how like I don't know, like security, I feel you give them a good enough of a reason to do something, like they're like, I don't care, I don't get paid enough to worry about this. But there, it's kind of a scary moment. The amount of uh, I was working with Baptiste basically the whole week, right? And we were driving. I don't know if he shared all the stories, right? But we drove around Las Vegas. We did like an infinite number of loops around the Bellagio just to get the right shots in those videos, and yeah, I got to bond a lot with Baptiste. We were probably on the phone together for like 2 or 3 hours that one day, just driving around Las Vegas.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But I really like how the episodes turned out.
Yeah, I'm excited. We had five. I think two have been published. We'll link him down below in this video. Two have been published, and we're waiting for the last three.
Yeah, really excited to see the rest.
Me too. I was excited to record them. It was a lot of fun. I think definitely it's something that was a little bit more different, a little bit more unique. We've gotten positive reception from it, and I think people enjoyed it. Because this kind of interview, this is very well known, right? But yeah, doing something a little bit different was definitely a welcome thing, I think.
Yeah. We try doing that. When you work in marketing, it's really important to keep yourself innovative all the time and creative and come up with new ideas because the environment is getting very competitive, and many things are now being replaced with AI based tools. So we feel like we always need to keep the fire lightning, keep coming up with new ideas, with new initiatives. So I think it's part of being a modern marketer these days.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we jump a little bit into Salto, right? So you mentioned you guys are in a competitive space, but when you look at Salto's website, Jira and Confluence isn't the only thing you all do, right? You have a much bigger, broader portfolio. So why don't you kind of maybe explain how did Salto get into the Atlassian game? Like, what was the drive there or the importance there?
Yeah, gladly. So maybe I'll give like a brief explanation about Salto just to set the stage. So Salto is a DevOps platform for business applications configuration management. So we try to bring automation and structure into configuration management for Jira admins, but also for other applications where admins suffer from the same problem set. And you would be surprised, the same pain points we're solving for Jira admins also exist for NetSuite admins, for Zendesk admins, and they all involve an extremely high amount of manual tasks the admins needs to perform on a daily basis to manage their configuration, which doesn't really match the complex environment they work in, right? So as companies grow, the configuration of the system grows with it. And at a certain level, the configuration it just becomes too complex to handle, to manage without the proper tools in place.
Yeah, no,
And
sorry,
yeah,
not to cut you, sorry to cut you off here. Yeah, no, I can definitely empathize, right? Because just to do, I was working with the team just this week, and they were like, "Hey, let's add a custom field to Jira."
yeah,
I'm like, "Cool, not a problem." They're like, but then they said something very important. They're like, "I want it only on the Epic." I'm like, oh, this changes everything because now I got to go change. I had to go create so many screens, so many screen schemes, and then I had to go and modify all the issue type screen schemes to go grab this. Well, put the field into the screen, put it into the new screen scheme, put that into the issue type screen scheme, and then do it like 8 times for 8 different projects, right? And you can get lost. You can get lost in all that, and then if you're practicing like in a sandbox and you got to redo it again in production, like it's a lot of changes just for adding one custom field to one issue type.
yeah, yeah. It makes the customization process just unnecessarily cumbersome, right? And complex and slow and really unnecessarily. There are ways to do it better. And we're seeing the same problem that you're describing now. It's very common across many different applications. So, as we expand as a company, we're always trying to kind of see which other group of system administrators suffering from the same problems that we're specialized in. And we identified the Jira as a major one. Well, first because the market is really big. Jira is obviously a very popular application, but also it's getting very, very customized. It's very flexible, but when at the same time, this flexibility brings in a set of challenges. Um, and also a big signal for us that there is a need for Salto is when a very critical capability of moving things from sandbox to production and vice versa is missing. So whenever that capability is missing, then we know there's probably a big pain around it.
Yeah, and a good market for you guys. It blows my mind because Jira does a really good job of taking a production site and pushing it over to a sandbox.
Yeah.
Really, really good job there. I don't know why they can't go back.
Yeah. But Alex, it's not just Jira. Many different applications, Zendesk missing the same capability, NetSuite missing the same capability. So they all understand that sandbox refresh is critical. It's kind of out of the box for everyone. But the other way around doesn't exist, unfortunately.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I mean, it's a huge miss on Atlassian, but a great opportunity for someone like a company like Salto, right? Because even as I was saying, like, hey, they do a good job at pushing from production to sandbox. They do that once.
Yeah.
Any future changes you do to production that you want to get into your sandbox, you're manually doing them again, right? Unless you have something like Salto to help you move those over.
Yeah. That's a great point. We're seeing sometimes people having to do like manual hot fixes in production, and they wouldn't want to do an entire refresh to their sandbox because they still have work going on. They're still kind of testing things there, so they don't want to overwrite their entire sandbox. So I think, yeah, in many cases, people will just want to kind of cherry pick what they bring from production to sandbox. Um, and also, I think we noticed that in some cases, for example, in JSM Premium, object schemes cannot get pulled over to your sandbox. So there are some gaps and limitations for that direction as well, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely I always find it really interesting because not even within your domain, right? Just across the Atlassian ecosystem, it's funny to me to see like the things that Atlassian does well that are cooked and baked into the product,
Yeah,
and then like the sea of things that it doesn't do well. But
yeah,
it creates such a great opportunity, and I think that's what makes the Atlassian ecosystem so well, right? Because Atlassian doesn't need to be able to do everything well, right? And it creates the ability for others contenders to come in and kind of give their offering. Because even within your space, right? Salto just one of many that allow you to do something similar, right? So you each have your own take, like your own style of facilitating the transaction. So
yeah.
I think it's great for at least here in the U.S. We love capitalism.
No, but also, I say, Atlassian has its kind of bread and butter, right? Like the main product and how it serves engineers. I think they're really, putting the best product out there for that purpose, like their main use case or a few others. But then, yeah, it leaves us a room to bring our best practices from our experience um, for how to apply DevOps to configuration management. So, we leave it with them to do what they do best, and we try to bring what we think we do well um, into this discipline.
I will tell you that in using Salto, I think you all have made me a better Jira admin.
Oh, wow, Alex, that's such a compliment.
Well, the reason that is because prior to like working and interacting with you guys, I was like a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy. Like I just did the change in Jira, period.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
But once I started working with you guys, right, and you guys have really this concept of DevOps because maybe we can dig deeper into this DevOps concept in Jira because as I've expressed to you many times, right, like it's an DevOps as a whole is not an unfamiliar concept to me. But the concept of DevOps as a Jira administrator and the practicality of being a DevOps when I'm doing changes in Jira, that's new to me, right? Because most of the Jira admins that I interact with, like we just make the change and don't really worry about the consequence of that change. And sometimes if you have a good admin, like me, that the risk is low, right? Because I always tell people like, well, I don't do changes in Jira that I can't fix,
yeah,
right? But not every company, right? Atlassian has 300,000 customers. Not everybody has the the luxury of having a really good admin, right? Sometimes you have admins that maybe make a little bit more mistakes, right? And when those mistakes start to happen, this is where having again good DevOps practices help because it allows you to track your changes. It allows you to document your changes. It allows you to roll back your changes if you make a mistake, right? And so I
yeah.
think it's a really critical thing that now when I make changes, I'm more conscious. Right? I'm still living life at the edge here, but I am at least more cognitive. I'm like, wait, somebody should know about this change.
Yeah, but Alex, I think, like how good the admin is one thing, but also I think we're all humans, right? So even if you're really good at what you do, whenever so many tasks on your desk are still manual, there is always a chance you'll make a mistake. And also, we're seeing that in many companies, there are multiple admins touching the same instance. And sometimes they work on the same area of the configuration. So, and there's no really proper collaboration tool to help them ensure that their changes are not conflicting with each other. And sometimes they work with external vendors, sometimes it's within the team. But I think it's also something that we try to facilitate this collaborative environment of customizing Jira together.
And you guys are such a great enterprise solution because one keyword that we haven't said here, which is the one that resonates the most with me when I think of Salto, is audit, right? like I mentioned, right? Like I'm so used to just making changes, but I don't have a paper trail of those changes, right? And one of my favorite things that I love about the way Salto works is it force is not the right word, but it strongly encourages you to follow a good process, right? Because even though Jira is really not a tool where it's not like a custom built tool that companies are it's not a homegrown tool that companies need to actively track changes because Atlassian makes all those changes for you, right? It's a SaaS product. But I think a lot of companies have like a change management control board type of thing. And those change processes are usually focused or geared towards in-house, inbred type of application, something that the developers in that company made. And so, yeah, you want to track any configuration changes. But I think Jira kind of sits in this gray area where it's like, yeah, Atlassian makes the changes to the code, right? I don't ever touch the code of Jira. But if I mess something up, if I change something and I don't communicate it out, it could cause productivity problems for the team, right? Because now all of a sudden a field's gone, or all of a sudden a field's not required. And making fields required kind of it has a behavioral impact, right? Because teams now they'll stop using the tool if it gets too complex. And so I think it's a really good I think Salto fits this really great, especially with the enterprises that do have more stringent audit requirements, to have a tool that lets them build that paper trail so that they can go back and go, okay, here's this approval, here's why we made these changes. Instead of, just having someone like me that's just making changes all day long.
Yeah. So, yes, as you said, some companies they need it to pass some of their audits. So yeah, we're seeing some customers that have more interest in having everything properly documented and backed up. And also, sometimes like having this audit trail of configuration versions can also help you when you need to go back, right? When you need to restore. So if something breaks, for example, and you want to recover quickly without going through a full investigation of who did what and what was pushed where, you can just pick an older point in time and just go back to it. So that's another benefit of having kind of everything
Yeah.
documented from on the configuration side.
And one last point that I want to touch on that you said, right? Again, I see Salto as such a significant enterprise level application, right? Because this stuff just doesn't exist in Jira today, right? But in enterprises, right, especially when you're in the enterprise tier of Jira, or of Atlassian, I should say, you're allowed to have multiple Jiras, multiple Confluences, right? And sometimes it's the same admins, but sometimes it's multiple admins, as you had mentioned earlier, right? And that collaboration, time zone differences, like I'm waking up and there's changes in my Jira that I didn't authorize, that I didn't even know about,
Yep.
but because there's an offshore team that's doing these while I'm sleeping,
Yeah.
right? And it's hard to catch these things because usually they're caught when somebody complains because something doesn't work the way it used to work.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting way of living as a Jira admin when you don't have, again, solutions like this to kind
Yeah.
of help facilitate those things.
Yeah, to facilitate no good tools for visibility to the changes that were made, to what's implemented. Yeah, I think managing this such a collaborative environment in like a very good, reliable, consistent manner is a bit tricky now without a tool in place. And as you said, we're seeing companies. We have a few customers that have like a multi-account um, infrastructure, right? They have like a few different sites that they need to keep maintained, and they need to do it consistently, right? They cannot just update one site and keep the other site outdated. And as you said, different admins touch different things or cover different areas of the business logics they need to update and maintain. So yeah, I think having like one source of truth that you can use to maintain like a consistent structure and having everything kind of documented. I think it's critical for big companies where they have more sensitivity into breakage. They have more sensitivity um, into things not being documented. So yeah, I think enterprise is definitely an area where we see we have more interest in.
Yeah, especially because like your standard folks, like I work with such a big breadth of folks, right? Like my channel exposes me to so
Yeah,
many different customers or so many different ways that people use and interact with the same tool. It's just mind blowing. I like to tell people that no two people have ever asked me the same question regarding like a Jira thing, right? Like just the number of questions that I get to field on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, it's a powerful tool, and one that definitely, if you're a bigger company, right? Like, because even small companies can benefit, but like really the big companies are the ones that are gonna benefit the most, right? The most that return on investment is gonna be the greater with these bigger companies. Although like I said, everybody can really benefit from having
yeah.
having this, but you'll be much more happy.
No, but you're absolutely right. Bigger companies that they have the pain is more significant, right? Because the complexity of the configuration is much higher. In many cases, there are layers and layers of technical debt, right? Because of previous admins created things differently, like the logics were different, and no one bothered cleaning up the instance and how it was set up. There are more dependencies after sometimes when things piling up,
Yeah.
more hands touching things. So
Yeah, no,
as
yeah,
yeah,
every hop is just an order of magnitude more complex, right? I think one of the scariest things to do is clean up Jira, right? Try to remove statuses because once you delete something in Jira, it's gone, right? But it's hard because, like you said, everything's so intertwined, so many dependencies, and this is something that Salto does really good, is that when I make a change, I have a specific view of, okay, I made a change, awesome. I just added a custom field, no big deal, right? Everybody has custom fields every day, but how those custom fields go on a screen, how they go on a screen scheme, how different projects are sharing those screen schemes, right? Like you don't always get to see that or you remember, right? And so it's great that Salto also picks up on all those subtle under the hood
yeah.
linkings and goes, wait a minute, you just can't do this. You got to do all of this too, but it helps you.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear, you find this helpful. I think this is at the very core of what we do. Like the mapping of different dependencies. This is a very fundamental capability that our technology supports. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but this is also part of our free offering. So we do have some parts of the product that are available for free for everyone. And this capability of extracting your instance configuration, see what's implemented, and understand the relationships, this is something that we offer
That
for free.
everyone can use.
Yeah, everyone can use, and people are using. We have a few hundred people who are visiting Salto on a monthly basis, just for that, just to see where certain elements are being used, to plan their changes better. If let's say, as per your example, if you want to change a field or remove a field, you'll be able to kind of you'll be able to tell what's going to be the impact
Yeah, cause and
ahead.
effect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no,
Yeah. So
again, for even professional admins and even I think for new admins, super
yeah.
valuable, right? Because it gives you a quicker way to see how the tool works under the hood. And for seasoned professionals, it gives you an appreciation because I sometimes go so fast that I forget the basics, right? And this tool keeps you honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, the number of sometimes I'm like, because I'm so fast and high level, right? That I'm like I'll forget an intricate detail, and it's an embarrassing thing to forget, but it's just something like I don't always operate like it's a big spectrum that you got to operate in as an
Yeah.
admin, and
Yeah.
sometimes you forget things, and it's great to know that you have something like this to catch you and have your back.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. We spent 25 minutes talking about how awesome Salto is, but let's go a little bit deeper into like the history, right? How did the so I love the beaver. My kids love the beaver. The beaver made it in a couple of videos, not all those config cruises, right? But towards the
Yeah,
end, we folded it in. And anybody that was a Team 24, it was kind of hard to miss a big giant purple beaver in the middle of the floor. So,
yeah,
what's the story? How did that
yeah.
come to be?
Yeah, well, first, everyone of the beaver, you're not alone. I'll give you that. Yeah, so the beaver's name is Knuckles. The name came from the name of our a configuration language, a Knuckle, not another configuration language. This is the language we use to analyze your Jira configuration and to translate it into a textual representation. This is kind of the basics of our technology. And the name of the language is Knuckle, and that's how we came up with the name Knuckles. Yeah, Knuckles is we decided to go with a beaver as a mascot because we see beavers as like system thinkers, like they're designing systems. Um,
That
this is,
makes so
by the
much
way,
sense.
sorry.
That makes so much sense. They're
Yeah,
collaborative workers, they're engineers,
exactly.
they're solving real problems.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
all coming back to me now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Second grade is coming back.
yeah, and it's a great marketing assets to have, right? Because as you said, people love Knuckles. So you saw the giant had in our booth at Team. Did I tell you the story about how it got there?
No,
No.
no, tell us.
Yeah. So our original plan, our super fun original plan, was to have like the full body suit mascot wandering around. We hired an actor to wear it around and to go with it. But we couldn't pass security. That's why I mentioned we had some additional
Some
security.
additional learnings. Yeah. Dude, I felt like running around Vegas and parking in places that we couldn't park with Batiste was like, but the recorder, the videographer that we had, he's like, this is so much fun. And I'm like, this is the most stress I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. So imagine how the actor felt wearing the giant mascot.
I would have done it for free, by the way.
So they wouldn't let us in the hotel, unfortunately. And we felt really bad because we put so much effort in producing the mascot and finding the actor and so on. So we said, okay, whatever, we're just gonna bring the head in to our booth, so people at least could see it. And it generated a lot of interest, I must say. It was like a magnet. People saw the head and were like, oh my god, we have to try it on. We just have to try it on. So we had many people stepping in, trying it, taking photos. So people love Knuckles.
Yeah, but it's such an interesting move because I get to see all the Atlassian ecosystem, right? And I don't know that I can comfortably say that anybody else is at that caliber because you see this. This is recognizable, right? This is there for a reason. Like this is a conversation starter because immediately somebody will look at that helmet, that Master Chief helmet, and I got two of them. I don't know if you can see them both, but I have two of them there. Right. I love Halo. It's one of my fondest, most cherished memories of my childhood, right? And it's something that I now get to share with my kids, but it's all because of a mascot. It's all of this brand awareness that somebody created, everybody tied or associated the Master Chief with Xbox. We see the same thing with Mario and Nintendo, right? Sega and Sonic. Like it goes together, and it's interesting because like you can really start building a connection and recognition with Knuckles
Yeah,
in your
yeah,
particular case. And again, it's something that I don't see any other marketplace vendor doing, but one that I think subconsciously does have like a trigger, right? So like when people will see it or recognize, and the more content that you all create as a Salto brand, like more and more people will come to realize and know Knuckles, or know of Knuckles at least.
yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think we also see Knuckles as like the fun flavor we try to add because our product is very, technical. It solves a lot of like painful problems, and we feel like Knuckles is our way to be more kind of fun and light about it in a way. Um, so yeah, we hope it will stick around, and we hope people will start kind of identifying.
You guys make a smaller Knuckles, and I'll move the Master Chief over, and I'll put it right there.
You didn't get a plushie?
I don't know that I did.
Oh,
Maybe my kids took every plushie that I had.
okay. We're gonna produce another round of them soon, so I'm gonna make sure you'll
Yeah, Baptiste is
VT.
very selective. I was like, "Hey, where are my socks?" And he's like, "Let me see if there's any." I was like, "I'm like your main star. You have to have reserved like the whole swag bag for me."
Yeah, but we're actually the new round is gonna be a bit nicer than the previous one, so we're gonna make sure you have the V2.
I just think it's such a unique thing that like other companies do, right? Like I said, Nintendo with Mario is just that intellectual property goes beyond just a configuration management tool in Jira, right? Like it starts really tapping into people's hearts a little bit, right? Because like folks will have it in their office and it's like, what is this thing? And it's like, oh, it's our configuration manager that we have, right? It's just like it's such a I don't adorable is the word I want to use, but it's probably not the right word. But it's so again, it just gives you that nostalgic value that I think years from now people will look back and go, "Oh yeah, I remember Knuckles and stuff." So
Because
kudos, I think kudos for the idea of incorporating Knuckles into your branding. I think that was a pretty good move.
yeah, and also as you said, the kids love it. So my kids are also big fans. All the kids I know, they basically
What we gotta do is we gotta turn it into an animated series.
at
The
some point,
Adventures of Knuckles and Jira, and a
yeah,
book,
at some point we would at some
a
point.
video game, card game. There's so many
Knuckles,
opportunities here that you guys are missing out on.
Knuckles against configuration.
Yeah, no, like seriously, like you can villainize configuration changes as like a really bad boss character in a simple 2D game where you gotta like jump or maybe you gotta collect screens or you gotta collect custom fields.
Move them from one account to another.
Yeah, like kind of like Centipede where you would have to, collect, like you get bigger and bigger and bigger. You gotta go and collect things without like getting hit with bad objects. It's such an interesting game.
Yeah, I
Have your
think
marketing people talk to my marketing people. Oh man, that so related but unrelated note, but just again food for thought.
yeah,
Um, pea coddle. Have you ever heard of that?
I did not.
No. Okay, I wasn't expecting you to. So Git is really complex. I don't know if you've ever tried to use Git, right? But learning how to branch, how to put your commits, how to do like your rebasing, how to do like your fast forward, how to cherry pick, how to go back and commit, right? Like how to force follow or force whatever, right? There's so many technical terms and technical terms and technicalities of using Git correctly. It's not for the faint of heart. Like my 5-year-old can't just jump into Git and go, okay, I'm a Git expert by lunch, right? But there's this concept or this thing called Picaro, and somebody created like a game out of learning branching strategies.
Oh
And
wow.
so you're kind of like following along this narrative of like you're kind of playing a game, and so it gamified the learning experience of how to create like how all the different branches work. What's a master or main branch? How do you make a commit? How do you merge those commits, right? And it's a really cool and interactive way of learning how to use a very complex thing. And and going back to the knuckles thing, I can see, right, if you really wanted to do something at that level, it would really work out, I think, well for you guys.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
have to talk to your boss.
To use Knuckles as a configuration management tutor.
Well, yeah, because like a lot of people don't know what a screen is or the dependencies of a screen, right? And it'd be interesting to see like when you create a custom field, like what impact does it have under the hood? right?
Yeah.
Like, what are all those connections? Because you already have the map, right? You already have the logic of how all the mappings and dependencies work. But it'd be interesting to like maybe gamify or have, or almost Knuckles be like Clippy. Like, I don't know if you remember Clippy from back in Microsoft, uh, like early 2000 Microsoft, right? Because it would navigate you, right? It would tell you like, hey, here's how you do this, or here's how you do that, which I think you guys already have in your UI, some sort of a guide, right?
Yeah, we do. We have it's an AI based feature. It's called Explain. So what it does, so what we do before the feature, we translate configuration into a textual format. So we understand how kind of what's implemented, the relationships, but we also understand the semantics of the configuration. So what this feature does, it simply explains how different configuration elements are working. So, for example, if you have an automation implemented in your instance and you're not sure what's it for, maybe someone else created it or it's a really old one that no one is using, you can just ask Salto, hey, what's this automation is doing? And we will just give you a brief explanation of the triggers, the logic, what's exactly is programmed there, like very quickly, so you won't have to spend time, investigating and figuring it out yourself. So
Very helpful, very very helpful. It's one of those things, again, you don't know what kind of admin you're gonna have, right? So some of them will find it like, oh, I already know this stuff, but others will be like, thank you, because I
yeah,
had no idea what I was doing.
yeah, it's just easier, like whenever you can use AI to make things easier, faster, we try to do it.
Yeah, cool. So let's keep going. So you guys are a very creative company. I feel like between Knuckles and between your marketing efforts, right? This config cruise that we did in Vegas, and obviously having like a full body suit for for you guys should really do some commercials here with with that suit. But you guys are, again, a very creative, very high bar, right, by the way, as well. Very very attention to detail, which again not a lot of companies do. Usually a lot of companies are like good enough for government work and like C's get degrees kind of thing. So I really really do appreciate, like, you guys care about this stuff, right? It's important to you and your brand, and the representation of your brand to the world. But with that said, all your guys' pictures are all like a caricature. So what's the story behind that?
It's funny you should ask. So I think one main thing. So maybe for those of you who do not know, everyone who works for Salto, we get like this sort of avatar of ourselves. That we use like in channels and on LinkedIn, in our email account, etc. Uh, and there, I think that one of the reasons for that is consistency. We wanted something to kind of be consistent across the board. I don't know
That
if
makes so much sense, because it always looks so awkward when someone has like these professional pictures in their profile, and then there's one person has like the selfie, and it's
yeah,
like, and then somebody's like out on a ranch somewhere, and everybody's like on a, yeah. That makes, you guys are, you all have the same flavor.
yeah, we do, and it's also kind of speaks to our culture. Like we were very engineer driven, right? And think about what we do. We try to bring consistency into configuration management. We try to bring like consistent process that people can pursue, test their changes in their sandbox, copy it to production, run it through approvals. Like we want things to be as consistent as we can, because we believe it brings stability and efficiency, less errors. So, it's no surprise that our photos are also consistent. But as you said, taking pictures, like professional pictures, it can be a bit annoying, right? Like no one really likes seeing themselves. Eventually, like I don't like the way I take pictures. So
I'm
uh,
right there with you. Smile, not smile. I feel like I'm always in the pictures like I look mad.
yeah, it's super artificial. You always feel like you could have done better somehow. So yeah, I'm kind of happy to have this avatar presenting me.
You know, that's what we're gonna have to do for next year's team. We're gonna have to do just like a config and cruise animated. I'm driving, I'm doing the drive, right? And Baptiste goes, "Hey, Alex, you gotta smile." I'm trying to drive and not crash into something. But yeah, it. I think again, it adds to that amicability and approachativeness of Salto, right? Like having the creative avatar, having Knuckles. It's just, it's things that nobody else is doing. Like it just, I feel like it creates a warm invitation to come and say, who is Salto? Like what are you guys doing? Like just from a curiosity perspective, right? It's a really good, like, that's different. Like that looks, I wouldn't say weird, but it looks out of place. Like it doesn't,
Yeah,
it's not, it doesn't follow the Atlassian ecosystem norm.
yeah, yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I understand. We try. We do our best. We try. We want it to be top notch. So we try.
So you've heard me talk a lot about the cool stuff that I like about Salto, but from someone at your caliber, right? Someone that interacts with the tool way, way more, and
Yeah.
someone that obviously gets to even see like the under the hood, the new stuff that's coming out. What's your favorite Salto feature? Like, what's your favorite thing that it does?
Oh, that's a tough one. There are many capabilities that I like. What's the favorite? I really like the conflict resolution feature that kind of alerts you if you try to implement something that is conflicting with the current implementation.
I see. Okay.
And I really like we I don't know if you saw, we have like a really cool find and replace widget that you can just find something in your instance and replace all of the different instances of that value, which is a cool one, but it's not my favorite. I'll tell you what, I think it's hard to pick. Okay.
It's hard to pick just one, huh?
Yeah. Okay. It's not a feature, but I think my favorite part about the product is our interface, is the UX UI. Because I feel, we've invested a lot of resources in improving it. And I think we're at a point where we manage to turn very complex process into a very intuitive, easy flow. So and it goes through the entire process of migrating configurations. So starting from the ability to compare two sites to see what's the differences. I feel it's very user friendly, very intuitive. Through the selection of which elements you wanna bring over. Again, it's very easy to see and to select the objects you want to migrate, and also to see their dependencies, having everything kind of properly documented so you can revert changes, so you can roll back. I think our UX UI team have done great work in making all these kind of it's not features, it's like the visualization of the
Yeah.
flow is very
Well, I mean, technically
accessible.
it's a feature, right? Because
Yeah,
the UI is the gateway to your app.
exactly.
It's the
Yeah,
entry point, right? And so
yeah,
it is it
yeah,
user experience is something that I think you guys do pretty well. Beyond just like where the buttons are or what the color of the buttons are, right? But being able to just jump into the tool and be able to navigate it with minimal help
yeah,
is pretty important, right? I think that's one of the first things that I like to look at when I use any new app in the Atlassian ecosystem, because I use the tool for 12 to 14 hours a day. Right? I'm in Jira the whole day.
yeah,
And so if something doesn't feel intuitive to me, right, then it can't be intuitive to someone that's just new to Jira or doing this for the first time, right? So it has to be easy and it's got to be intuitive. I keep using the word intuitive, but intuitive is the right word to
yeah,
describe how an interface needs to work,
yeah,
for people to be able to use it. Because I usually stop using an app for one of two reasons. Oops. Apple. I usually stop using an app for one or two reasons. Number one, I can't figure it out. Right? There is no guide for me to tell me like how do I get from step 1 through X, because for the first time I don't know what all the steps are yet, right? And so for me to not know where to click or what I have to do next, it overwhelms me and it freaks me out.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm moving on to the next one. That's usually step 1, and that's or reason 1. And reason 2 that I don't usually use an app is because then it doesn't solve my problem. Or if it does, it doesn't let me know that it can solve my problem. Right. And so I think the way you guys have structured everything, it's like it's easy to get in and get using, but it's also like it does what it does. Right. And there's no like, oh, you got to jump through these 15 hoops and find this sub menu and then you can clone your configuration.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk. So you and I have had conversations over the last, I don't know, almost a year now. I think we've been working for quite a while now. And one of my favorite conversations that I've had with you was like on just user feedback, right? Like getting Alex, you use Jira every day. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Right. And so those are just data points, right? Data points that I'm assuming you collect and take back to your team. And so kind of walk me through like how do you add something? Like how does something become a feature or part of your product? Like what does that typically look like? And share what you can. I don't want to get you in any trouble or spoil any, company secrets, but like how much of a value do you have? Like how much value do you get from like the reviews on the app, right?
Yep.
Through the Awesome Marketplace versus emails versus like just one-on-one interviews, like what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'd say we are a very customer user centric company. Um, so at the beginning when it started building, we built what we thought we needed, because we have a bigger vision of how we feel configuration management can look like when it's fully optimized. Like we have our vision of of people like running a proper automated change management process where they do a proper planning before they start implementing something. Then they test it in their sandbox. They are automating the process of moving it between a sandbox to production. We also see them using pull requests to get approvals from their colleagues and to automate some of their tests before it gets published. So we have our vision, and I think that's where we started building. But then with time and as our customer and user base grow, we speak a lot with our customers, with our users, and we're getting a lot of feedback all the time. So we sometimes they come to us, they ask us, hey, we're missing that, we really want you to also add this capability. But sometimes we come to them and we ask them, like I came to you, when you first experienced the product, and I told you, like, I don't want to explain anything to you, just start using it, tell me what you think, tell me what is missing. Because getting this really unsolicited feedback on what's needed, what's missing, what will be beneficial, really kind of help us set our roadmap. And that's how we added Script Runner, by the way. So we launched our support for Jira, I think, a little over a year ago. And really quickly, we discovered that Script Runner is a big issue for companies.
It's one of
Yeah,
the biggest roadblocks for me even migrating from on-prem to the cloud.
yeah. So we realized it quite quickly, and we responded. We added it. I think within 2 months we already supported it, and same goes for JSM. And then we also added assets because we realized it was a big issue. Confluence, we're adding as we speak. We had a few customers asking for Confluence, so we added support for that too. So we're trying to be as attentive as we can. Sometimes they came to us, sometimes we ask for feedback, but Yeah, we try to stay attentive to our customers, uh, but still we always try to keep ourselves loyal to the bigger vision we have of DevOps best practices. So we always try. So for example, the backup and restore capabilities, I don't think people explicitly ask for it. Like people wanted to be able to roll back, which we had already, but we added another layer of automated schedule backups of your configuration. So now whenever Salto fetches your configuration, which we advise people to do on a daily basis, it will also keep a version of the current implementation. So you always have, every day you have a version of what was the implementation on that day, so you can always see what was implemented, and you can also restore to that version if you need to. So this is something we felt is needed as part of our kind of bigger picture
Mhm.
idea of how people should work. So, we try to balance the two.
Perfect. Well, we're coming up here on the time, and so I don't think we're gonna have time to ask you any other questions. But anything that you want to add, anything you want to highlight or show off, or bring awareness to that from your end?
From of about Salto, and
And if you can tell, does Salto stand for anything? Like, what is Salto? Like, how did you guys come up with Salto?
we do. So I mentioned our initials, knuckles, not another configuration
Yeah.
language. So it's also NA and CL, which are
Oh, oh my guys! Wow. Who is
yeah.
the head of your creative team? I want to know. Is it you? Who runs
No,
this?
no, I wish it's not me. It's not me. No, I'm not the. I'm part. I was responsible for some of the creative stuff, but not on this one.
Somebody's very, very creative over there. I will tell you that. Wow. Did-
Yeah,
Have you met Ray from Hurricane Consulting?
I I did. Yeah, I
Yeah.
met her in team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's other than what I just heard right now, she's the only other person that I was like, how do you come up with these genius ideas? Because have you heard of the name of her podcast?
No, I didn't.
So her company name is Hurricane because it's focused on females, right? So Hurricane instead of Hurricane.
Okay.
And and her and hurricanes, I don't know if you have hurricanes in your part of the world. I know they're named differently depending on where you are in the world, but
Yep.
here in the southeast corner of the United States, we have a lot of hurricanes, right? Like typhoons type of thing,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And they're measured in categories, right? So you have a category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That and the higher the category, the higher the number, the more catastrophic, more deadly, more dangerous the hurricane is.
Yep.
So she has her company called Hurricane Consulting,
Yep.
and her podcast called Category 6 because it's a measure of the hurricane. I was like, this is genius. But before, her previous employer, she made another podcast, and it was called On the Roadmap. I remember when I looked at that, I told my wife, I'm like, how come I don't come up with genius ideas like this? Like, why don't I have that part of the brain? Because like myself, like most clever thing I came up was like the summer of Atlassian, and then last year I did the fall of Atlassian, and I was like, that probably wasn't my best idea.
No, but
Because
you have your thing going on, Alex. You had the holiday episodes, which
yeah, we
were
did. Yeah, I try a little bit, but I'm
yeah.
stretching here. Like I have to be in such like all of the stars need to align for me to come up with just like one nugget of gold.
Yeah. Well, it requires thought, and process. I'd say, like, whenever we come up with a cool idea, we always like think about it, and we brainstorm as well, like a few minds together, nurturing each other's ideas. So
Maybe that's what I need. I need a team. It's just my wife and I. But subtle NaCl, wow, it's just the subtleness is just so clever. Cool. Well, thank you, Sagi, so much. I won't take up any more of your time. Appreciate you being here, and this will go live in a week or two.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Alex. It was really nice chatting around. And yeah, we'll see each other soon. I'm
Great,
sure.
thank you. Hopefully, I'm hosting next year, so hopefully you guys can make it back out here. These streets I will know how to drive because I grew up driving around the streets of Anaheim. This is my hood. All right, thank you everyone. Thank you for watching.